very quick with them. That's it. We're alive, Amber. We're alive, Amber. We're alive. How does it feel to be the creation of Dr. Frankenstein?
I'm not.
As you can see, Amber's joyfully glad that she's the creation of Dr. Frankenstein. Howdy, folks. I'm the creation of Dr. Frankenstein.
I'm Amber.
And this is my cohort in the creation of being created. And here's some Reddit. Hopefully folks are all doing all right today. So I it's a lovely Friday for us at least. So yeah. Hopefully it's a lovely Friday for you too. I'll also I'll also say hi to folks in the chat here. We might be like 30 seconds behind or something. I forgot. So like people will log in and it'll be like 30 seconds behind or something like that. Ah. See, hi, Co and Hart. Hi, Mary. How's it going? Welcome, welcome, welcome to the live stream. All right. We have a lovely batch of stories for you today. As you can see, we are still in the Winter Wonderland, as always, in Maine. That's kind of how it goes. And let's get started. Our first letter is titled, Am I a jerk for telling my cousin that she ruined a family heirloom? That's right, folks. One of these stories. I'm a 26-year-old female, and I have two cousins, a 33-year-old female and a 28-year-old female. My oldest cousin Jane is married, and my cousin Amy just got married. I'm single. Right before she got engaged last summer, our grandma gave Amy's fiance, John, a diamond ring to propose with. Oh, hi, June. This ring is gorgeous, white and gold diamond ring that our grandpa gave her. He died when our dads were teens. My grandma has since remarried and has always said that she would pass on the ring. I won't lie. I always loved that ring, and I hoped that would be mine, but I'm also the youngest cousin, so I tried to temper my expectations. Mostly I was happy for Amy and glad that the ring stayed in the family, and Jane agreed. Well, fast forward to this weekend, which was Amy's wedding. Neither Jane nor I were in the wedding, but we both went to a hotel where Amy was getting ready. She asked if we wanted to see the rings. We were both confused, but I said sure. And, when she showed us, it was a gargantuan tacky engagement ring and a wedding band set. I sputtered something like, but I thought you were getting married with Grandma's ring. Hi, Tamia. Amy just smiled and said, yeah, it's Grandma's ring. She explained that for her wedding gift, she asked John to upgrade the ring to this monstrosity, since he didn't have any pay for the engagement ring in the first place. One of the diamonds was Grandma's, and then the white gold was melted down to make her a new wedding band, but the rest of it was all new stuff. I burst into tears. I was so shocked and hurt. I told her that she destroyed our grandparents' heirloom. If she wanted a giant diamond to wear every day, then that's her choice, but the ring was important to our family. Amy got huffy and said that she had to finish getting ready, so Jane and I left. Jane was also upset, but had the attitude of, it's Amy's ring, nothing we can do now. I told her that I didn't think Grandma would have given it to John and Amy if she knew that they were going to take it apart. I found Grandma and asked her if she knew what Amy had done. Amy's mom had told her that Amy had it resized and had the setting fixed, but Grandma had no idea that it was made into an entirely new ring. She didn't say anything, but I could tell that she was upset. The wedding went on, but everyone could tell that there was something awkward going between Amy, Jane, and Grandma is refusing to talk about the matter. Amy is saying that I owe her an apology, but I don't think that I'm in the wrong for saying that she destroyed a family heirloom. Plus, the fact that she didn't tell anyone what she was doing and misled Grandma, saying that she knew it was wrong, or to say that she knew it was wrong, I wouldn't have been condoned. I feel like she saw it as not an heirloom, but as a way to subsidize what she really wanted. I know a mature thing would be just to get over it and accept it was given to Amy and make her get it be her choice, but I'm finding it really hard to get over what she did. Am I the jerk for feeling the way that I do? All right, folks, what do you think?
I don't think Opie's in the wrong for feeling the way she feels. I mean, it's always upsetting when, there's a limited number of a family heirloom and the person who gets it is like, you know, the family thing doesn't really matter to me. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
gonna, either sell it or like melt it down and make something new.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the wedding day was probably not the time to tell grandma, but like, I definitely think it's important to,
Yeah, yeah,
mention that, by the way, your ring has been destroyed. It's
yeah.
very clear, I think, that Amy knew what she was doing would not be condoned by the family. And yeah, she just wanted a flashier ring. And so,
Yeah. And I want to say hi to Amy, not the Amy from the story here. Yeah, I think this is a terrible tragedy in a lot of ways because if she had talked to the grandma ahead of time and said, "Oh, hey, I want to take this ring and I want to remake it," then at least the grandma would have had a say in it. But I think the way she went about it was really deceptive because if you're passing on an heirloom, it's going to be assumed that there are going to be very minor fixes to it. So I think that this is just a horrible situation for everyone involved, and it probably just does not feel very good. And June says, I know it's probably upsetting, but what can you do about it now? It's her ring, and that's a good point. Like, there isn't anything you can do about it. And Mary says, this is one of those stories where the spirit is more important than the letter of the law. It's legal for Amy to do with it as she pleases, but what a bad thing to do.
well, and that's the thing is like, especially if she was aware that there were other members of the family who wanted the ring, and because there were three girls, and so I think it was very much in poor taste for her to do it. Like,
Yeah, there were a lot of other people who wanted the ring for what it was, and I think that they really took that opportunity away from other people to have a ring that they would have really appreciated and really enjoyed. So I just feel very bad for all the other folks. But yeah, what can you do at this point in time, right? What can you do other than move on to your next letter, which is titled, Am I a jerk for leaving the delivery room to go to my dad? I'm a 27-year-old male, and as of yesterday, I'm a father of one. My own father, a 91-year-old male, has been in very bad health since I was in high school, and I wake up every day without fail, fearing that today will be the day that I lose my dad. My mother, now 50, dropped out of my life when I was 3. My girlfriend, a 27-year-old female, and I live on the general grounds of my dad's estate. We agreed to do a home birth with a doula and a midwife unless there were complications. Unfortunately, however, she experienced issues throughout her pregnancy. When her labor started, she was throwing up and bleeding heavily. The midwife told us that we needed to go to the hospital. So my girlfriend's parents and I went. My dad hates hospitals and spends a fortune on sourcing his medical care so that he can avoid hospitals. So he refused to go. We get to the hospital, and the doctor was saying that they would try to honor her wish and not do a C-section, but if things get any worse, they will need to do one. Right after we get there, I start receiving calls from my dad. I ignore the first one, but soon I have like 17 missed calls and very angry texts saying that my girlfriend's brother was still there and is overly impressed by everything and talks too much. He said that he couldn't believe I left him alone with this annoying person. I tried to mitigate the situation by telling my girlfriend's brother that he can wait in the hospital waiting area. Girlfriend's brother leaves, but then my dad texts and says that he's all alone and asks why nobody wants to be in a sick man's company. I finally had had enough of my dad's angst, so I promised to go stay with him until his nurse came. My dad brightened considerably. However, when I went home, my girlfriend had an emergency C-section, and my dad said that there was no point in leaving now. Now my daughter is born, and my girlfriend is furious, and when I went to see my daughter, she refused to say a word to me except that she was not going back to my dad's home. Am I the jerk? My dad has become very mournful and insecure as of late, and I wanted to stop his anxiety. All right, folks, what do you think?
I think OP was definitely being a jerk here. Now, I understand being torn between two people, and it sounds like the dad has kind of potentially manipulated him into being so attuned to his needs and only his needs. But, like, there's a matter of priorities here. Like, first of all, the dad had company initially. He had the girlfriend's brother, but he was annoying company, and so he sends him away.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I'm all alone. Why does anyone want to be with me? Like, that's his problem to figure out at that point in time.
Yeah,
Like,
beggars can't be choosers, right?
and when your partner goes into labor, like, that's a once in a very rare occurrence. It's not like everyday thing, and it's important to be there and support your partner. And so while it's unfortunate if the dad has anxiety, again, it was kind of his.
Well, it sounds like there's some emotional manipulation going on here. It sounds like the dad has been claiming that he's sick for a very long time, and I'm sure that I'm not saying that he isn't. I'm sure that he does have health issues, but he's been hanging on for like a decade at this point in time, and at a certain point, you're, I'm not saying that the things aren't bad for him, and I'm not saying that he should, just be, oh, I'm great and everything, but at a certain point, right?
He can figure something out for one afternoon.
What's one afternoon, right? And I mean, I know OP's worried that his father's last day is going to be any day now, but that's been going on for 10 years at this point. And I mean, I guess, like, I don't know. It's a hard situation, right? In his health wise, but honestly, like, one afternoon wasn't going to be the end of the world.
Well, it wasn't like the dad had just been rushed to the hospital either or anything. Like, I understand it being a tough situation if there's two people in the hospital at the same time, but we have one person in the hospital and one who's, why am I at home all alone?
Yeah, and I think that there was really a priority to be set here. And then the dad made the excuse of, oh, now that you're home, you may as well just stay here. The birth has already happened.
Right, exactly. It's like, no, like, you go see your partner. Like, I just don't even.
Yeah.
It's very clear the dad is very self-centered and only concerned about his own needs. And
well, I'm wondering if OP is worried that if he doesn't stay in his father's good graces, that the inheritance will not go to him, because sounds like he has a sizable fortune.
But that's still a bad ethical reason to abandon your partner.
Oh yeah, I agree completely. And let's see, we have Tamia says, all right, I have to head out, but it was fun catching you. Well, bye. You're already gone. Oh, you're still here. Bye. Mary says, you're the jerk. The phone should have been handed to a nurse for safekeeping. June says, yes, the jerk. His wife needed her husband more. And Mary also says, could have been a life or death situation for the wife, as opposed to I need company for the dad. Girlfriend, not wife. Yeah, well, I mean, I think that that's a really good point, is that this wasn't a life or death situation. And
well, exactly. There was only one person who was in medical, like, serious medical issues at that moment.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of serious medical issues, am I the jerk for sending an email to the rest of the family about my sister-in-law's behavior on vacation? That was not an actual segue. There's no medical issues here.
No.
My husband and I decided to bring our 2 kids to Disney World 4 days now that they are for 4 days now that they're old enough to appreciate it. My husband and I are not in the best of shape, so we decided to invite his sister and her husband along with us, who has 2 separate rooms. We assumed that we would spend the entire time in the parks together, since it was, after all, a family vacation. The first day in the park, we all did a few attractions together, but then, when we went to bring the kids to meet some of the characters, she said that she and her husband had some other things in the park that they wanted to do, and they would meet back up with us. We didn't see them until dinner, after we watched the fireworks together, and then went back to the hotel. The second day, we went to Epcot and they stuck around with us until the afternoon, but then split up with us again to drink around the world. When we met up with them for dinner, they were clearly very tipsy in front of the kids, very mature. When we got back to the hotel that night, I knocked on the door after the kids were asleep. I asked them if they were going to spend any time with the family on this vacation and told them that they were running around an amusement park with kids all day and it's exhausting and we could use some help. She claimed that the time that they were spending with us was enough, but they wanted to do their own things too. She made a rude comment that she didn't take days off of work to be our babysitter. Well, the next 2 days we didn't speak to them at all, and they did their own thing, and we did our own thing with our kids. We didn't see them again until the flight home, which was awkward. I was so upset that they ruined the experience for our kids, who were looking forward to spending time with their aunt when they got home. When I got home, I wrote an email to our immediate family about the experience and in the end told them that this was a reason that we would be going low contact with sister-in-law. I included sister-in-law in the email and sent it and then went to sleep. I woke up with a ton of angry texts from my husband's family calling me ridiculous. I just assumed that she would spend time with the family on a family vacation. Clearly, she does not value family.
All right, so let me get this straight. You invite this person to be a free babysitter. Do not communicate these expectations and then get mad when a vacation that she's paying for on her own dime isn't free babysitting for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want a babysitter, hire a babysitter and pay for them, but you can't just expect someone to pay for it, use their vacation time and their money for a family vacation and expect them to do your babysitting for you.
Well, and that's just it, is that they did not go to Disney World to take care of their children, right? And if you had those expectations, then that should have been something that you sat down and talked to them ahead of time about, not just assume that they would know and be able to read your mind. So I think that that's really one of these situations where they didn't know this expectation and OP just assumed that they were going to have this be on the same page.
Right, and it also sounds like they were spending a good chunk of the day with OP those first 2 days. They just wanted to do their own things in the afternoon.
Which I think is perfectly reasonable, right? So, yeah, Amy says from the last video, you're the jerk, you could have died in the living room with your child, and your dad just wanted company, which I agree on that one. But today, for this story, Mary says, never, never, never bring extra families to Disney. And sounds like OP should have laid any ground rules and expectations ahead of time. You're the jerk. Right? Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. And June says, yes, she's the jerk. She did explain to her sister-in-law what she was expecting. And that's just it too, right? They had their own set of expectations. So, I don't... Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, it just feels like she wasn't a mind reader, and then when I told her I wanted her to be a free babysitter, she wasn't excited about that. That's so terrible. She must hate the family, and it's like, that's not what that means at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's really what this boils down to, is that people can't read minds. And Amy says, you're the jerk, I honestly, because your kids are your responsibility, period. As a child-free couple, I'd be irritated if I was held accountable if my husband and I wanted to go and enjoy drinking. I just hated the whole tone of OP's side, and it was very judgy. Yeah, I mean, it was very judgy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, folks, our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Refusing My Landlord or Maintenance Crew Entry? Oh, and Rose Lover has just arrived. Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining us. So, I am legally within my rights, and I'm asking from a moral standpoint. Basically, I lived here in my rental for 8 years. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath apartment. As soon as COVID hit, my landlord, a 60-year-old married couple, raised my rent by over $700 over a 3-month span and stopped including heat and hot water with a notice that says, I'm truly sorry for the inconvenience. Unfortunately, we have had to take this route due to a lack of income. So basically, because they were hard up during an already hard time for everyone, they decided to completely mess everyone over for all of their tenants. They own over 10 rental properties, and they raised everyone's rent by this much. We are the last remaining of the original tenants that she had, and they are currently renovating all the apartments into Section 8 housing approved. I'm leaving here within a week because I cannot afford a $3,200 month on top of heat, electricity, and hot water. Another $600 easily. By the time that I have to be given a 24-hour notice for them to enter the property, they have been showing up here for the past 2 days with maintenance crews because they want to start fixing up the place for Section 8 approval with us still here, trying to pack up our stuff. I have outright refused them entry, and I have multiple reasons, honestly. One is a petty reason. I'm mad that I have to uproot my kids. That's a me problem, and I'm willing to admit it. Two is the fact that I don't want these people anywhere near my stuff and potentially ruining it with their renovations. And three, I don't want them around me or my kids. There's like 4 or 5 random guys, and she keeps trying to bring them into my home while my husband is off working, and I'm home alone with our 3 young daughters. They can wait a week until I am gone, and this is how I see it. The landlord is pitching an absolute fit because she will never be approved for clearance to start renovations with a family living in the apartment without having to pay us, but to put us up in a hotel room. So she's fully expecting me just to cave because this is the one-time maintenance that it has to be done at, as they won't be able to do it next week. I told them that that is absolutely not my problem at all. She did end up leaving here crying, saying that if she doesn't get this done now, she will likely lose her rental properties and all of her income because she hasn't been able to afford her mortgages in months and is currently under the threat of foreclosure. I still don't think that's my problem. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
Not the jerk. I mean, the landlords chose to buy these rental properties, and if they can't, if they don't have the money to properly put someone up in a hotel, they just have to wait. Like, it is not OP's problem. She should not have to give up her privacy and her comfort in this place so that they can start renovating it.
Well, that's just it, is that she has some very legitimate reasons for not wanting strangers into her house, and I think that's perfectly legitimate, and maybe nothing will happen, but also, she's being uprooted and being forced out of the situation, and here's the thing. If you're a landlord, you have taken your time and money as an investment, and with every investment comes risks. And if you can't afford the risk, then you can't afford their investment. And that's just the way it goes. You cannot make your problems into your tenant's problems. And that's exactly what this landlord has done.
Yeah, well, poor planning on her part does not constitute an emergency on OP's part.
Exactly. And Amy apologizes for having acrylic nails. Don't apologize at all. Type as fast or slow as you want. And Mary says, wow, and I thought $300 raise was out of line. Yeah, I mean, I guess it really just depends on the location, but $300 seems like a lot of money, let alone however much any of this other stuff is. And Rose says, oof, that rent increase. I've heard of a lot of areas trying to generally gentrify places by cranking up the rate, and it is terrible.
Yeah, my siblings live down in Portland, Maine, that is, and like they've been dealing with rent increases.
Yeah. And June says, not the jerk, it's illegal to raise the rent in the middle of a lease, and it depends on your jurisdiction. Some places it's illegal, some places it's legal.
Well, the question said, is it legal?
Oh, is it legal?
Yeah, and it varies.
It varies.
But it could be, like, especially if she started doing this during COVID, a lot of places had moratoriums on raising the rent for a time, so it's possible what they did was illegal.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that OP may even want to consider consulting a lawyer. If they
depending on when the rent increases started, like if they were when a lot of places were saying do not, like, you can't evict anyone, you have to freeze like your increases and stuff.
And Amy says that sounds like her problem. yeah it is. It is. And not the jerk, the women and the children are home alone with 4 random strangers entering. When it's only a week's wait, I would react the same. That's what Mary said. And it is really one of those situations. I really would not. I don't like people entering my home.
Well, and the noise too. Like if they're doing renovations, like I would not want. Well, I don't like having strange people in my house to begin with, and then to
Yeah.
have all that noise of like renovating while you're in a stressful time trying to pack your stuff up and move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can only imagine. I just feel bad for poor OP here because that's just completely unacceptable, you know? All right, folks, our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Being Distant with My Brother-in-Law since he came out as gay? I'm a 28-year-old male, and my wife, Sandra, is a 27-year-old female, and her family are from Spain. Her parents and her three siblings, Ricardo, Anna, and Bruno, live here in the US too with their respective families. Everyone but Bruno, who's the youngest, is married. As they're from a different culture that do some stuff that we would consider weird in America, one of which is give kisses on the cheek as a hi. I've grown used to it, so I don't mind until now. Well, around like 2 months ago, maybe a bit more, Bruno called the whole family to let us know that he's gay. I don't hate gay people, and I never thought of myself to be a homophobe. I congratulated Bruno, as did everyone else. We were having a good time in the family, and that was that, and this is where the problem came. Bruno said in front of everyone that if I wasn't married to his sister, he would jump on me. Everyone laughed, but it was certainly uncomfortable to me. Later, he doubled down on it by saying that I have a cute butt. Might I add that Anna's husband was there too, and Bruno said nothing to him, only to me. When Sandra and I came back home, I tried speaking about how uncomfortable his joke had made me feel, but she just brushed it off by saying, that's Bruno and he always jokes like that. She doesn't see why now it is different. Well, next time we saw each other, which was soon after that because her family is very close, this was at our home. Bruno had come to pick up my eldest two off to take them to a baseball game. When I opened up the door, Bruno said hi and he leaned in to kiss me. I realize now that he kissed me too close to my lips rather than on my cheek. After that, whenever we saw each other, I just kind of pretended to be sick or busy so that I can shake his hand and say hi. Apparently, Bruno had noticed this because yesterday my wife came up to me and asked me if Bruno had done something to make me angry at him. She told me that Bruno has seemed off every time that he's near me and wants to know if he should apologize for something. I told her the same thing that I had told her before, plus the kiss thing. She told me that I was exaggerating. Bruno was just joking and such. I've tried to tell her that it feels very weird for your brother-in-law, keyword brother, that would tell me that he likes me and would pursue a relationship with me if I wasn't already in a family. I've tried saying that I can't talk to Bruno about this, but she told me not to do it. She told me that if my reasons not to give him a kiss are because I'm homophobic, then she'll make up a lie for Bruno. She also told me that she's very disappointed. Am I in the wrong here? All right, folks, what do you think?
I think this is the rare story that kind of subverts our expectations. No, I don't think like if he is sexually harassing you, you are within your right to be like, no, I'm not comfortable with this. Like the jokes he was making seem very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And if he is like trying to sneak toward OP's lips, like I can understand why that would also be uncomfortable.
Yeah, I can understand the thing is like sexual harassment is never funny.
Mm-hmm.
And this isn't a funny joke, and if OP feels like he's being sexually harassed, then it's important for people to actually take that seriously and not just make light of it and be like, oh, that's just the way he is. Because you can make that same kind of statement about anyone who's sexually harassing anyone else, right?
And it's just not cool. Like, it doesn't matter the genders of the parties involved. If someone's being uncomfortable because someone is saying things like, oh, if I wasn't married to, or if you weren't married to so-and-so, I'd totally be with you. Like,
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's just like, no, this is, we just had a story like this just the other day where the woman was basically doing the same thing. And it's just like, it's not a good situation. It makes people uncomfortable, and he doesn't need to be doing this. Bruno doesn't need to be making OP uncomfortable here. And OP was fine with this up until Bruno started hitting on him and commenting on his body
Mm-hmm.
and making lewd remarks and then trying to kiss him on the lips, right? I mean, at a certain point, like, that's not homophobic. That's just you trying to set reasonable boundaries. And let's see what some folks have to say here. Rose says, we don't talk about Bruno. Amy says, don't like this one already, but I'll withhold my judgment until the end. Well, we are at the end now. Uh, Mary says, inappropriate language, knows no preference, and inappropriate is what it is, period. Not the jerk. Rose says, usually I would be judgmental in the gay person's favor, but in this case, it does seem like the brother might actually be hitting on him, and that definitely is uncomfortable. And Amy says, he's totally hitting on him, and now he knows that he's into men. It really brings inappropriate behaviors to light. June says, yikes, I would have been uncomfortable too. Not the jerk. Tell Bruno that he needs to say sorry. I do agree. And Amy says, if it was a straight man hitting on a woman, it would be sexual harassment, but him being gay does not give him a pass on bad behavior. Exactly. June's having internet issues. Sorry, June. We'll have to see you later. Hopefully your internet issues get fixed soon. Speaking of internet issues, am I a jerk for shutting down my parents by saying that I won't raise their grandchild just to look good to others?
It has nothing to do with internet issues again. Brian's segues are on par tonight.
My segues are beautiful segues. They're like the segues, the one-wheeled bicycle thingies, two-wheeled I don't, you know what I'm talking about, the things that you drive on.
They definitely have more than one wheel. Unless they're unicycles you're thinking of.
Well, I don't know. I haven't ever owned a Segway.
I haven't either.
I think they're like Segway balls. There's some Segways here. But the point is that they're majestic. So I'm a 27-year-old female, and I was estranged from my deceased sister for 5 years after she had an affair with my fiance that not only I found out about, but resulted in a pregnancy. I cut out the two of them out of my life and declared that they were dead to me. They had a child who is now 4, but close to 5. I'm not sure. I have never met this child. I never wanted to meet this child or be in their life. My parents knew that their grandchild and supported the child while my sister and ex were alive. They were on and off again after I left him. I heard from friends that their breakup was quite explosive. When they died, it was in a car accident, and people were pretty shocked, but also not kind of, because a lot of people assumed that they were probably just arguing and fighting and didn't focus on the road. Their child went into foster care, and my parents tried to take them, but they were denied on grounds of health and mobility. The child's parental relatives did not want to take the child, no surprises there, and so my parents turned to me. I'm engaged now to Luke, and we bought our forever home last year. We are stable and happy, and my parents believe that we should take the grandchild. I told them that I would not be a good fit to raise the child, and I was sorry, but that was the end of the discussion as far as I'm concerned. Luke also told them that he was with me on that. My parents went behind my back to try and talk to him, but he told me, and I told them to stop. They begged me again to reconsider and said to imagine how nice it would be to know my nibbling. To be there for them, to have a child who's part of the family, keep in our family, and raise in a loving and around people who want the best for them. I told them that it's not a job for me and just to let it go, and a few days went by and I thought they might have had to drop it. Then they call me and tell me about how good it will look for me, and that I betrayed my sister and ex-fiance to have enough love and compassion to raise a child that was conceived out of said betrayal, and love them and to be the best mom to that child who could exist. They said that people would think that I'm a saint and that would always think of me as an incredible person. I told them that I am no saint. I do not want to be a saint, and I don't want to be seen as some incredible, amazing person, and I'm not going to raise their grandchild just to look good to other people, and they need to stop asking me. They told me that I was heartless and asked how could I not care at all about a child who was my own flesh and blood. and who had been tossed around the system in just a few weeks, because according to them, a child has been in 4 homes already. They said that I should not be able to turn my back on family like this, and I should have more compassion for them. And they were told by CPS that they were not allowed to raise the child. Am I the jerk? This is a sad situation.
It is, but OP is definitely not in the wrong here. Like, I do feel bad for the kid, but that's not OP's responsibility to fix. Like, of all the people in the world who could raise this child, the person who, like, OP's not going to be a good person because the situation is very raw, very, her partner cheated with her sister and this child was the result. And that doesn't make for a good situation 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, I think that if you know you're not a fit parent, then you should not be a parent. I think that that's really what this boils down to. There are certain expectations that parents are going to have and do to raise a child, and OP is saying that I'm not going to make a good parent, and I think that that's a really important thing.
Yeah, it's important to recognize. And, I think, the parents just need to back down and stop trying to push this on OP because just because they share some DNA, again, if OP like looks at this child and sees this betrayal and starts to resent them, that's not going to be a good situation for the kid.
No.
And like also again, it's not OP's obligation,
Mm-hmm.
she did not have any say in this child coming into the world.
Mm-hmm.
She has no obligation to take care of the child.
Yeah. And Mary says that the inventor of the Segway died on one, which I did not know.
Same.
That's actually kind of morbid. Rose says, going to say straight out of the gate that if you don't want to be involved with a child, you don't have to be. It's not your responsibility to parent them if you don't want to. End of story. Well said, well said. Mary says, this would be a sacrifice, not an obligation, not the jerk. Taking in a child under duress could end in resentment towards the child and unfair to both parties. Yeah, exactly. And Morgan says, not the jerk, but how sad. And hi, Morgan, welcome. Amy says, oof, this is difficult because I know it's not the child's fault that they were brought into the world like they were, but I would have a hard time loving a child created by my hurt and pain. Yeah, it's just a terrible situation. It's bad to tear someone down else's nest to create your own, and that's what the sister did. And now OP is being pressured to raise an unwanted child. And as sad as it is, I mean, the foster system is sometimes very questionable, and I feel very bad for the child, but I also don't feel that OP should be the person who's responsible for this.
Yeah.
It's going to cause a lot of harm, and if it's not something that they're willing to do, then they shouldn't be forced to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Telling a Grad School Colleague That Her Lab Coat Really Accentuates Her Figure? I think we can immediately jump to a conclusion on this one. What do you think, Amber?
I'm going to say you're the jerk.
I think it's a pretty obvious one. It's a very short story. I'm a 25-year-old male, and I'm doing my master's degree in cell biology right now. I was working in the lab with my colleague, Anna, a 23-year-old female, and I offhandedly, jokingly mentioned to her that she looks good in a lab coat, and it really accentuates her chest. Anna and I have been on very good terms up until this point. But right after I made that comment about her lab coat, she kicked in the lab desk and told me to zip it. She complained to me that I don't know what it's like to be a woman in STEM. Not only did she make a fuss right there and then, but she also told our supervisor and the department about the comment that I made. I'm not in too much trouble or anything, but Anna has requested to work only with female classmates from now on. Was she just spazzing out or what? Anna hates my guts now. If I was the jerk in any ways, then in my opinion, her response is totally disproportional and overblown. Did that change anyone's mind?
No, it just reinforced it. Like, you don't get to go around harassing people and then be upset when they report your harassment.
Yeah.
And it sounds like nothing big is even coming from this. Just she doesn't have to work with OP anymore. And like,
yeah, OP's getting a slap on the wrist at very worst. And if anything, they should be held to a higher standard. And because as someone who's working in a lab, he's probably also going to eventually be in charge of females if he's continuing in the lab route. And I think that this is really something that they need to keep an eye on, because he does not need to be making a hostile work environment for women in STEM.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like, what if these attitudes go unchecked? It does create a hostile work environment, because then you have the supervisor of the lab who has, these 20-year-old grad students who he has power over,
Yeah.
who he's making these comments to.
Yeah, and it's just not good at all. And I think that this is a situation where the schools have classically not done enough when it comes to sexual harassment, and I think that they probably didn't do enough here too. But at least she doesn't have to deal with him, and hopefully it kind of hamstrings his ability to be in any kind of supervisory role. So let's see where we're at. Yes, Amy says this is borderline harassment when you mention another person's body. Yeah, I do think that this is sexual harassment. Mary says, good on the colleague. Automatic reactions are the best. Yeah, I mean, this is going to send a message that this is not acceptable. Morgan says, you're the jerk, you. And Amy says, she hates you for a good reason. Do not minimize how someone feels. Anna is right. Women in STEM have struggled with this crap for years, and it's got a high male to female ratio.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's just it. It's not a good situation. Not a good situation at all. And speaking of not a good situation, am I a jerk for making my nephew cry on his birthday party over some gifts? This segue might actually work. I'm a 26-year-old female, and my sister, a 29-year-old female, has a son, Eric. He's 8 years old, and I don't visit a lot. We live away. But I see them and most of my family at birthdays and holidays. When I visit, I usually buy Eric a toy or some candy, and he's my only nephew. To be honest, I like to spoil him, and maybe I'm a little bit to blame for what happened here too. It was Eric's birthday this week. I visited them, and I brought them a nice car toy. The car was quite big and had some lights and stuff. When I got to the party, I wished him a happy birthday and handed him the gift. He opened it and he loved it. He said, so far this is the best one. Which at the time I thought was just excited, but with him, what happened later, I kind of got the idea that more malicious intent was behind it. Well, like an hour or so later, the party started. When everyone had already arrived, Eric made an announcement to the table in which the aunts were sitting. He said that I have won and that I was now the person that he loved the most because my gift was the one that he liked the most. I thought that this was sweet and he liked it. Then he told my mom that her gift was terrible. She had bought him a board game, so he didn't love her anymore. He also told one of his friends that year that he won't be invited because his gift was poor. He gifted him a set of dinosaur figures. I think the whole thing of ranking gifts people that got you was pretty terrible, and I expected my sister or her husband to say something. But they didn't. They just laughed. So I told Eric that he's not supposed to say things about his gifts that people got them, and that they should be grateful with what they got. He said that he doesn't understand why he has to love people who don't buy him nice gifts. I genuinely can't believe my sister is teaching him this BS. His dad told him that, yeah, they should all give you the best. So then I told him again that a person's worth is not about how expensive or big their gifts that they got them was, and that if he was thought this way, then I was not going to be buying him any more gifts. Eric started to cry. My sister told me off because I made him cry, but most of my family and some of her in-laws were on my side and told them that it was bad to teach your kids such a thing. Our mom was quite affected, and I wanted to leave too. So after we left after that. My sister texted me later and called me a jerk for leaving before the candles were blown out, and for telling her child that he won't get any more gifts from me. She said that I shouldn't make empty threats to a child. And I said that it's not an empty threat, and it's not empty, and it's not a threat, and I promise that until they teach their kids some manners. Am I the wrong for discussing this when my nephew was present? Am I being unreasonable to him since he was so young? And would I be in the wrong in the future if I kept my promise and didn't buy him gifts the next time I see him? All right, folks. What do you think of that one?
I don't think OP's wrong here. What the parents are teaching him is a very dangerous lesson because people's worth is not tied to how much money they make and what kind of, like, there are some people who don't care about giving gifts, but there are people who genuinely try to give gifts and they just don't have a lot of resources. And like this is just such a bad message to be like, your love should be contingent on what gifts you get.
Yeah.
And it's like a reflection of how much someone cares about you because again, like not everyone has the same material circumstances.
Yeah, your money and how much money someone has and what kind of gifts they give you do not dictate whether or not you should like them or not, or how much you like them. This is such a selfish, terrible attitude, and that this kid needs to unlearn this ASAP. Like, this is just completely unacceptable. Rose, it's fine, Rose. I'm sorry that you have to disappear. Mary says, wow, I was on the fence until I got to the mom and the friend. This was the very definition of a learning moment. Yeah. Amy says, oh my goodness, I was taught to be appreciative of the fact that people got you a gift and that no one is obligated to. The world doesn't owe you anything. Yeah, I mean, I think that's generally how people are taught about gifts. And Rose says, on the one hand, there are different love languages, and if yours is gifts, it's truly make you feel less loved if you get a lesser gift, but they also sound selfish. Yeah. Mary says, anyone ever seen The Bad Seed? I actually haven't seen The Bad Seed.
I haven't either.
And Morgan says, not the jerk, but oh my goodness, this kid is something. Yeah. And Amy adds on to hers, when I think of a gift as a love language, it's that you feel loved when people get you things that you treasure because of the sentiment behind them, not the thing itself. And I think that's well said, because gifts are about how well you know someone. And a gift doesn't have to be expensive to be a good gift. So.
Do you want to do some tea?
Yeah, Amber wants to do some tea time. So let's grab some tea then. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she's got a joke.
Why does a seagull fly over the sea?
Oh, I know why a seagull flies over the sea. Because here's the thing we all know about seagulls, Amber. They are composed of many little tiny letter C's. And so when a seagull flies, it's like a bunch of C's flying, and so they fly over themselves because seagulls are in flocks. And as you know, that means that seagulls fly over themselves because that they're made of the letter C. And so yeah, that's the answer.
Because if it flew over the bay, it would be a bagel.
It's probably better than my answer.
Yes.
It's considerably better than my answer. We'll have to definitely Google The Bad Seed, Mary. That sounds like a interesting concept. Rose asks, Mega Mint, Diet Coke for Mary, Mega Mint for Brian, Earl Grey. We got some different guesses. I lost people with that, Amber.
You did. It was there were too many letter C's going on. I was like, okay, let's get to the punchline.
and everyone seems to have guessed, and I have Mega Mint today.
I picked Brian's tea today.
Amber did pick my tea. So remember, folks, if you don't have a seagull, you have a bagel.
That's only if it flies over a bay. But what happens when they fly over the UMaine parking lot?
Well, then they're parking lot gulls.
Yeah, I guess so.
They're gulls. All right. Do we want to move to the next story here?
Sure.
All right. Our next letter is titled, Am I the jerk for telling my brother that he moved too fast for the outcome that he ultimately wanted? My brother is a 39-year-old male, and he has a daughter, Piper, a 15-year-old female. When Piper was 4, her mom died. My brother told Piper so much about her, and they have some special photos of her mom that were treasured. When Piper was 6, she started being teased by this girl called Nancy, a 15-year-old female now. It continued for over a year and ultimately came to a head when Nancy tore up a photo of Piper's mom that Piper had brought into school for some show and tell, family edition, that her class was doing. From that day on, Piper did not like Nancy. Because of that incident, my brother and Nancy's mom met. They became friends, and a few months after the incident where Nancy tore up the photo, they started dating, and they married a year later. Piper pulled away from my brother when she found that he was dating Nancy's mom, and even more when they moved in together and then got married. Nancy was actually happy and tried to get close to Piper, but Piper wanted nothing to do with that. Nancy's mom mentioned how being sisters would be able to mend the rift, and I thought that was kind of ridiculous given what had gone down. My brother only mentioned to me recently that he really thought Piper and Nancy would be sisters and would be close by now. But Piper doesn't want anything to do with Nancy still, and doesn't trust her around anything important. I told my brother that's because he moved too fast to get that kind of relationship with them. I said that he and his wife started dating, and Nancy hadn't even apologized to Piper and was still upset with who he was dating and Nancy being in her life more when they got married. I told him that at no point did he try to make what happened better for Piper. He thought that his marriage license would somehow erase the hurt that Piper felt and that the bullying that Nancy had put Piper through for more than a year. I said maybe if he had given it time, let Nancy apologize, and given the girl space where they weren't living together to interact outside of school, this could have happened. But you had one child who was hurt and angry, and another who was eager to have a dad and a sibling after only having her mom. My brother said that I expected him to let Piper dictate his life, and I said no, that's not what I said. I said that if he wanted Piper to be happy and embrace Nancy as a sibling, that he should have taken things more slowly to get that outcome. He told me that it was none of my business and I was overstepping and that I was just his little sister. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
No, I don't think you're the jerk. I think this is a hard truth he needs to learn. I mean, with all the fish in the sea, like, you had to go for your child's bully's mom. Like, really? And, like, so fast, too. Like, maybe if things settle down, like, down the road, but just be like, it's been a year since she ripped up your beloved mother's photo. You should be over by this and just immediately want to be her sister. Like, there are plenty of, like, people who meet as step-siblings who don't have that sort of, like, animosity between them and still don't become best friends. So
Yeah.
like why he thought that tying the knot would magically fix everything, like
Yeah.
it's clear he was only thinking about himself and what best benefited him.
Yeah, I think OP said it really, really well. And I mean, I think Amber said it really well too. And I think the explanation that OP gave here was a really thorough one. And I don't think that they said anything that was untrue.
Oh, but remember, OP's his little sister.
Yeah.
So clearly, he had to throw in the little there too to be like, you don't know anything. You're my little sister.
Yeah, it just seems like a dig that was completely unnecessary. And I feel bad for OP here because they're probably going to be the one dealing with a lot of like the fallout from their niece there. And I think that it's just going to be one of these situations where she's not going to trust her family and she's going to have to find other mentors. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing for OP, but
yeah, well, maybe like she can reach out to OP, potentially if OP like lets her know that I'm here for you and I support you. And like, because the way the dad is handling this is not appropriate at all. He's not taking her concerns into play. He just wants her to play happy family.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to feel bad anymore.
Exactly. And that's just truly tragic. And Mary says, brother was aware from the bullying from the start. Shame on him. That should have ruled out even a first date. And Rose says, not the jerk. Piper is allowed to dislike her even if she does apologize, and they just are going to have to live with that. Or no jerks here. And Mary says, marriage will erase the hurt. Yeah, that works every single time. Apparently, some people think it does. And Amy says, photos of the deceased mother isn't replaceable, and Nancy's behavior was cruel, and she didn't even apologize. Yeah, I mean, I think that this is just terrible, terrible. And Morgan says, not the jerk. Oh my, I agree with Amber. It is truly tragic. I think we have enough time for one more.
Yeah, for one more. Let's go to the very last one.
Which one's that?
The autism one.
This one? All right. So Amber wanted to do this one because it's Autism Month.
Yes, so it's Autism Acceptance Month this month. And this was a lighter one, so I thought it'd be a good one.
So let's get started. Am I the jerk for using autism tips and thinking about getting diagnosed? I'm a 20-year-old female and I share a few traits with typical autism behavior and started using some tips from online. They really help me be more comfortable in my everyday life. Some people ask me over the years if I have autism, which I usually reply with, no, just some quirks. However, it got me thinking that if I should get tested or not. I would have an answer as well as if I'm autistic and I could get any help from my university, which would make my university life a little bit easier for me. Still, I would be fine if I'm just an adult who has some traits. A friend asked me how I'm doing, and while I was talking about everything, I also mentioned that I'm thinking about getting tested. The reaction was a bit negative. It's a bit out of nowhere, maybe some traits, but you're not autistic. You act up, you don't need these tips and routines, etc. And especially, you shouldn't act like you're autistic. That's wrong. Autism is just something with people who cannot have a normal life. You're able to study and are just fine. This hurt. I don't want to ridicule or use autism in a wrong way. I'm just looking for some answers. I also bought some earplugs to help with my noise sensitivity, but now I'm afraid I get even more comments when they see me with them. I don't think that I'm technically in the wrong, but also I don't want to be a jerk about it. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
No, I don't think you're a jerk here. And I love how the friend is like, you shouldn't act like you're autistic. Autism is just something people who cannot have a normal life, like autistic person here who has a PhD in physics, so I was kind of okay at studying too. Autism is a spectrum, and there are all kinds of different ways to be autistic. But I think and so if you think an assessment will help you, OP, by all means get one. Like, it can be really helpful to find out whether or not you are autistic. But I think the key takeaway here is a lot of the accommodations for autistic people they have found are better for a lot of people. So a lot of people who are neurotypical as well have some kind of like issues with loud noises. So if noise canceling headphones are helpful for you, you're not being disrespectful to autistic people by using them. And nothing that improves your quality of life without, is like an inherently bad thing or taking away from the autistic community.
Yeah, I mean, tools are tools. If you see some tips in life about how to make your life a little bit easier and they're useful for you, then I say that go ahead and use those tools. And if you feel like this will give you some closure or some answers and will potentially help you with other avenues of seeking new tools, then I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't feel that there's anything that's going to take away from your life by having a diagnosis. And if you don't want one, you don't have to get one. But, if you want one, get one. And at the end of the day, it's your life. And if you have to make the decisions on how best to enjoy your life, and if these tools and tips and utilities are helping you do that, then I say more power to you.
Yeah, well, and as some people way more like, wise and articulate than me have said, autistic traits are human traits. So again, like a lot of these hacks, well, I don't know what you call them, that there are for like to help autistic people can also be beneficial to neurotypicals. And like, because autistic traits are human traits.
Mm-hmm. And Mary says, disregard the friend. A diagnosis would hurt no one, not the jerk. And Amy says, wow, I would drop this friend. I think that OP is being reasonable and trying to see if they are trying to improve their quality of life and see if that will help them socially. I agree. Rose says, not the jerk. You shouldn't act autistic, but if you are, then that's not a bad thing. And getting a diagnosis can be really helpful for a lot of people, so there's nothing wrong with wanting a professional diagnosis. And Amy says, under the Friends definition, nobody ever should seek treatment or diagnosis for any sort of mental illness, even if you're suffering. Exactly. And Morgan says, not the jerk. If they want to get a test, I agree. Finding out the truth would only be a good thing. Exactly.
And it really can be, and especially where OP is still a university student, and it sounds like they have some struggles with school, like getting that official diagnosis, getting so you can get your accommodations could be a super helpful thing.
Mm-hmm. But speaking of all that, I haven't updated for the live stream, so I think that's all the time we have for today. Let's see, when is our next live stream? It's going to be the 26th of May.
So 3 days before my birthday.
So thanks so much for watching, folks. I hope you're all going to have a great weekend here. I hope everything is going well for you. I hope you enjoyed this live stream, and I enjoyed seeing your comments. So I think that if I can ever get my act together and actually update the calendar correctly, that's always going to be a good thing.
Yes.
So thanks so much for watching, and I hope you're all going to have a great day. Do you want to tell an outro joke?
Outro joke.
Amber is going to tell us an outro joke off the top of her head from a book.
Yeah. What do you call a dog magician?
What do you call a dog magician? Well, I would say that you call a dog magician by their name. Otherwise, they'll probably turn you into a dog.
A labracadabrador.
I think that works. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend. So, bye, Mary. I'm glad you enjoy. Bye, Morgan. I hope you have a great day, too. Bye, Rose. Yes, we'll see you tomorrow for the Saturday morning special. Of course, we'll see you tomorrow for the Saturday morning special. I hope you all have a great weekend, and we will see you all tomorrow.
Bye.